In the previous video, we saw how CocoaPods can manage our third-party dependencies for us. In this video, we're going to see how we can incorporate a third-party library into our application manually. Then we'll interoperate with Objective-C to implement the framework as the author had intended. So we've learned a bit about interoperability, and we've added a CocoaPod to our Game of Life application. Not all libraries require a dependency manager like CocoaPods. In this video, we'll add an Objective-C library called swRevealViewController to our application manually. This library will allow us to create an interesting sidebar menu for switching views, which will come into play during our next section where we'll discuss asynchronous programming and concurrency. We'll start by navigating to GitHub and searching for swRevealViewController. The top result by John Lutch is the repository we're looking for. Once his page loads, click Download Zip and download his project. Next, we'll open up our Game of Life application, and then we'll navigate to our freshly downloaded library. There are quite a few files in this folder, but what we're looking for is this folder here named swRevealViewController, and we're looking for these two Objective-C files. Drag them into your application and select Copy if needed, and click Create Bridging Header. Now that we have the files copied into our application, let's start implementing our sidebar menu. Drag a new view controller out onto your storyboard. Next, we'll set it to isInitialViewController, and I like to set my size class to 4.7 inch to save horizontal space. Let's set our class in the Identity Inspector by selecting swRevealViewController from the Class drop-down menu. Next, we'll create a static table view controller that will represent our menu. Again, I'll set it to 4.7 inches. Then, in the Attributes Inspector, set the content to static cells. This starts us out with 3 static cells for our game. We'll click on Table View section in the document outline and set the number of rows to 4. We'll leave our first cell blank to give us some padding at the top. Then we'll add labels to the remaining cells. And then we'll name our second cell Life, which will load our game. Our third cell will be named Most Iterations, which will display the records for the games that had the most iterations to complete. Lastly, we'll name our fourth cell Least Iterations, which will display the records for the lowest number of iterations to complete. If you haven't guessed, we'll be using Alamo Fire to upload our high scores and low scores to a server, and we'll display the least and most iteration scores along with the username. Next, we'll connect a custom segue from our Reveal View Controller to our menu by control-dragging from the yellow View Controller icon to our menu controller. And we'll choose swRevealViewController Segue Set Controller from the options. Then, with your new segue selected, we'll set our storyboard segue to sw_rear. This tells swRevealViewController the stacking order of our views. Now we need a front controller. An obvious candidate is the main application, so once again, we'll control-drag from our Reveal View Controller, but this time to our Game of Life View Controller. Again, we'll use setController in our segue, but this time we'll set our identifier to sw_front. In order for us to open and close our menu, we'll need to add some sort of button to act as a toggle for our menu. Let's utilize a navigation controller to accomplish this. Select your main Game of Life controller, and then go to Editor in your File menu and find Embed In, then select Navigation Controller. With that, we can easily add a bar button item for our menu toggle. Go to your object library and search for bar button item. Once you find it, add it to your left bar button items area and name it menu. Next, we'll open up the Assistant Editor and make sure the view controller code is showing. We'll control-drag an outlet from our newly added button to our view controller, and we'll name it Menu Button. Finally, we'll add the following lines to our ViewDidLoad. Here, we're checking to see if our view controller does have a Reveal View Controller instance. If it does, we'll set our menu button's target to self.revealViewController, then we'll set the action to Reveal Toggle. Here, we are calling a method in the SW-RevealViewController library that actually fires the toggle. The next line adds a pan gesture recognizer, which allows us to use swiping to open and close the menu. Last, we're defining the width, which is the distance that the front view will displace to show the menu. I've chosen 200, but you can set this number to whatever you like. We see that our application is complaining. Can you guess why? We haven't set up our bridging header yet. So, while Xcode is aware of SW-RevealViewController, our application is not. Let's update our bridging header with an import statement for SW-RevealViewController.h. And that should do it. Build and run, you should see your menu in action. In this video, we have seen how to manually incorporate a third-party Objective-C library into our application. In this section, we looked at how Swift and Objective-C work with the Cocoa framework. We learned how we can interoperate with legacy Objective-C code bases and learned how we can utilize both C and C++ in our projects. In the next section, we're going to take a look at asynchronous programming, concurrency, and Grand Central Dispatch.